um, so, fire episode. I don't even know. Okay, so before we even start, I want to say that at the end of this, and the announcement can only be made at 10 minutes past 7, there is an announcement from Mnet, and I'll get to that at the end of this recap. So last time we ran for an hour. I'm going to try and get it back down to the 40 minutes or so. So if you have any questions, hit them up right now. I've already had a few, and we will get to them. So episode 9, we have about 10 to go. I'm not 100% sure. 13 castaways at the start of the episode, and we are about 20 days in. So the castaways are feeling absolutely everything right now. Tired, hungry, emotional, sore. Their skin is probably screwed up for the rest of their lives. There's a lot going on. So in the last tribal council, Nathan was blindsided, and I will explain the air quotes a little bit later on. And getting back to the beach right after tribal council again was fire. And I'm just beginning to expect that anytime Dante is around and he is feeling all kinds of worked up, there is going to be fire. And I think as soon as you put Nathan and Nicole, I don't know Nicole, and I don't know Nathan either, by the way. But I feel like when you put those two together, Dante, when you put Dante and Nicole together, there's kind of fireworks all the time, because Dante has a way about him. He doesn't care who you are or where you come from. He's going to speak to you the same way as he speaks to everybody. And that's like, just don't be dumb. Don't be dumb, that kind of thing. And Nicole is used to having a certain amount of respect and gravitas about her, and she's used to people speaking to her in a certain way. So when the two of them come together, firecrackers, and really cool casting to have the both of them eventually now getting together. So first question off was Ducky McDonald asking, what do you think about Dante's reaction to Nathan being voted off? Sure. I mean, they were kind of blindsided, weren't they? Dante and Meryl were kind of blindsided by the vote. Dante is so quick to anger that I think anything can set him off. And Nicole, the ice queen, is just... She doesn't like people questioning her, is what it looks like. And the verbal altercation between the two was really good TV. I love that it happened at night, and you have the sort of infrared cameras capturing them. And when they have those nighttime scenes anyway, their eyes always look like vampires anyway, so it adds to the drama. Nicole goes to Dante because Dante is clearly thrown off by the vote. He wasn't included in it, and he's upset by it, and he's not used to, I guess, handling that kind of anger within himself, so he's going to say what he's feeling. And he goes up to Meryl and Dante, who were on the hammock, just chatting about what had happened, and Nicole says to them, cool, let's chat about this tomorrow. And Dante agrees, cool, let's chat about this tomorrow when everybody's level-headed. And then Nicole proceeds to talk about it, and then Dante flips out. In fact, his quote is, take your unstable emotions and go to bed. Another golden quote from Dante. And, he was correct in telling her she asked to talk about it tomorrow, then she didn't, then she proceeded to talk about it right then and there, and Dante called out and said, enough with your nonsense, just go to bed. So there you go. Nicole freaks out at that. I will not tolerate anybody speaking to me in this kind of way. I think they're both wrong, but when emotions are high like that, what are you going to do? Loudmouth says it's rich of Dante to call Nicole emotional pot kettle. I think Nicole's emotions are gameplay, whilst Dante's natural emotions are aggravated by the game. 100% correct. Nicole doesn't like to see her own gameplay playing out in front of her the way other people are playing it. So she's very quick to call out Meryl and Dante for playing hard and playing dirty. Meanwhile, she cannot see that in her own gameplay, which I find interesting to watch unfolding in the game. Anyway, so Nicole's upset. She got yelled at, and I find it interesting that Nicole just automatically thinks that Dante should be respecting her when she's done nothing to earn that respect, and she doesn't respect Dante or Meryl, but she thinks that she deserves respect in return. I find the whole thing exceptionally fascinating to watch unfold on a TV. The thing for me is the vote. You can see Nicole was cut up about it. You can see that there's more to the story, and she gets to it further in the episode. But my suspicions have always been that Nathan wanted to leave day 3. We'll get to her confirming that or making up a new lie. But yeah, we'll get there. So the next day, that kind of put everybody to bed. The next day, everybody wakes up. They get ready to go to their challenge. There's still a bit of after effects, but everybody leaves and they go to their challenge. And Nico says the words that he's been saying quite a bit of time, quite a lot over these seasons: drop your buffs. At 13, that is a huge merge number. To have 13 people back on an island, that is more than when they started with. It's crazy. So there you go. Merge time. I thought it would be probably 9 or 11. 13 is a lot of people to have back in a camp, to have back in a shelter. Lots of stuff. And I think a jury of 13 is also going to be interesting. That is a lot of votes that you need to win. That is a lot of votes you need to have people, relationships with when they get voted out. So many people that you have to be very careful that when you vote them out, it can't just be I'm voting you out. You also have to do it in a way that I'm going to vote you out, but then you have to vote for me at the end. It is the beauty of the game, and the big gameplay comes down right now. Who plays the social game the best? Because it's not just about winning challenges and keeping yourself safe. You have to keep yourself safe, and you have to keep yourself in the good books with everybody else. Right, Bianca says, I honestly think it's lies and she's just trying to cover her own ass. Nathan said at the end of the show that he left prematurely and that he wanted to cause havoc at Merge. He's completely acting. I don't think so. I don't think so at all. You see, the only reason I say that, well, there's a few reasons I say that. I think that Nathan has realized from day 3 that the game was bigger than him and that he was looking for every opportunity to step out. He was giving his idol to her. You don't do that in Survivor. He just was injuring himself, whether subconsciously or consciously, making himself seem weaker or actually get weaker. As I say, I don't know if he was realizing that he was doing that or not, but he did not want to be playing this game anymore. I think he realized the game was bigger than him, stronger than him, and he couldn't do it. And I think Nicole voting out Nathan when everything goes against that, I think that strategically it was a terrible decision. I'm not sure why she would make that at that point. I'm not sure why Jeffrey would go along with it. It's a terrible decision to make at that point in the game, knowing that Merge is coming and that you can irritate everybody from Samoa. And I just think there's too many things pointing in the fact that Nathan wanted to be out of the game. I don't care what he says. He's covering himself. Production couldn't have somebody walk off the show again. It's really bad for South African Survivor if we've had people who quit this game this season, the previous season, and the season before that. So I just don't think... Anyway, if it is the case, I think they should have let it play out like that. Before we go, I don't understand the logic in why CPay called Nicole out for the Nathan vote at the Merge feast as an alliance member. Surely a private conversation would have been better. Her forwardness will cost her. You're surprised that CPay is speaking and making things a little uncomfortable with her words? Have you been paying attention? Every time CPay sort of has a event, it is at the cost of her standing in the tribe. She sometimes talks down to people. She's a little bit condescending. And so that does not surprise me at all. That comment is from Loudmouth. Love Michaela says, sorry, do you think that the strongest player, who do you think is the strongest player at the moment? That is a tough question. Can I come back to that? Bianca's still going on about Nathan quitting. Look, that's my own opinion. I do know a lot of people who have met other people in the game. I've been told that there have been some quits. And I just think they've been covered out as votes. But that's just my opinion. And yeah, anyway. Bianca says we'll see and wait and see what the final episode when he reunites with Rob at the live shows. Why would Nathan give his idol to Sipe instead of Rob? I don't know, because Rob already has one. So Nicole handing over her part of his idol to Sipe, it's also a terrible move, because why? She wouldn't have known, Sipe wouldn't have known that he already gave her that second part of the idol, I don't think. It's all very messy. I struggle to keep up. There are a lot of people, there are a lot of alliances, there are a lot of things happening. So, yeah, we go. Merge feast, right? Let me tell you, drop your buffs at merge time is like one of the best couple of words you can hear, because you get to eat proper food. The rewards so far, we haven't really had like proper decent meals up until now. It's been like donuts and coffee and spices and things like that, but this meal, I promise you, keeps you going for a very long time. In fact, when we were there, we got 2 King Steer burgers. I think I might have taken 1 bite out of the King Steer burger, and so I had, and they let you take the rest back to the beach, as you see in the episode. And so I had 2 massive burgers, and I swear to God, I probably ate for 4 days on that. It probably was really unsanitary, but we kept eating that. Maybe not 5 days, maybe 3 days. But it's a lot of food. They have ribs there. They have, that chicken is delicious. Those ribs are absolutely delicious tasting. A steak and beefy type meat at this point in the game is like life-changing, life-affirming. You cannot underplay how that merge rejuvenates you. And you can ask somebody like Tony and PK, who hadn't eaten for ages, and when they came into that meal, I saw them come in as half human, and I saw them leave after that completely changed. I cannot explain to you the difference in visually how changed they were after that merge feast, and thank God for steers in that environment. It is absolutely crazy. The other thing that I could not get enough of were those milkshakes, and we even had a soft serve machine at our merge feast. I was actually at Annalisa's house when I watched this episode, and she said she had 3 ice creams, and my immediate response was, how was your stomach after that? Because it's not great, but you don't care, you just cup on, because it's so delicious. The highlights for me, the merge, Sipe, as you say, calling out Nicole, and then Durao. Anytime there's food and Durao, it's a highlight for me. He is such a messy eater, but he's so endearing. And he's just drinking his milkshake, and halfway through he says, I forgot that I was lactose intolerant. And so eventually he's like, so that was pretty entertaining to watch. I think Quibus is always a highlight. Come and join me here at my feast. Durao saying, I don't need a menu. I think the merge feast is a really nice way for people to just to sort of pause the game, and to take a moment and get to know other people that some of them have never met before. And I really liked this merge feast because of where it was. There was a nice area for them to swim with the waterfall. It added a nice moment too. But I thought it was quite interesting because Jeff calls out Durao and Meryl for playing hard at the merge feast. Like, look, it's an unwritten rule that you need to pause the game and enjoy the merge feast. Durao, Dante and Meryl, big partners, Dante and Meryl for playing, not Durao. Dante and Meryl have to scramble. They are desperate to play this game. And if there's one thing I've learned in Survivor is you never stop playing. Write that down. I stopped playing at the final tribal council, and it kicked me in the ass. So you never stop playing. You never hang up your castaway hat. You play wherever you can, however you can. And Dante and Meryl's game just looks different to Jeffrey. And they always look like they're scrambling, and Jeffrey has a really strong social game. So he may not have to do the same thing that Dante and Meryl have to do. So again, stop calling people out. Cool, so we get into merge. Let me just break this down for you, because there's a lot of people, there are a lot of alliances. I have absolutely no idea who is with who and why and how many alliances people are in. It is chaotic. 13 people to keep track of. It's a lot. But let me just go through the alliances as we know them at merge. We've got the Spit Shakers, as the press release that was sent to me is calling them. That's the 7 formed at Taolo last week. Rob, Steffi, Quibba, Jacques, Letitia, Sipe, and Mike. 7 strong. But we'll see if that's just a fairy tale, as Rob said. The Amigos, which is Rob, Steffi, Nicole, and Sipe. That was formed on the first day. And then Sipe was added, so it was 4 plus Sipe. We'll see if that's solid, because obviously Nicole voted out Nathan, so we'll see whether that's going to bite her in the butt. Then we've got Jeffrey, Maba, and Mike. They don't have a name. Could we please get a name for their alliance? Jeffrey, Maba, and Mike, the formidable pair of Jeff and Mike, of Maba and Mike. They seem inseparable, but it's going to be interesting to see who turns on who first. They're playing a hugely strong social game, but it seems to be irking players like Dante, so we'll see. And then we've got Tarzan and Jane, which is Mike. Sorry, apologies for the mess ups here. It is Dante and Meryl, and neither of the two are in the good books with the former Solar Tribe mates. So we'll see what happens there. And then we also have the Misfit, which was Durao, Sipe, Jacques. We'll see if that's still a thing. I don't know where Sipe lies with all of these. She's in so many alliances, it seems. So we'll see if that holds true. And then advantages. Let's quickly go through who's got advantages. Nicole has a hidden immunity idol, but at the moment it's only half. So she has Nathan's half and hers, which she then gives to Sipe. She gives Nathan's half to Sipe. She got that at the Islands of Secrets. Durao has a hidden immunity idol, but it's no longer in use. It's only can be used as a fake idol now. We'll see. We'll see if I wish that it was with a different player, because I think it'll be quite amazing to see it get played. I am doubtful whether Durao can pull off a fake immunity idol, but we'll see. Everybody, Rabbit is here, by the way. And Jacques has an extra vote for the first tribal council at merge, which was found in his bag of rice. And then he's got a hidden immunity idol, which he found at the Lau Mei well. So there you go. Bianca said on Instagram, one of the comments, she said, Nicole's face says it all. I don't know what you mean by that, but Nicole's face doesn't often give much away, actually. She's got a bit of a poker face. Her tears, however, give away a lot, and it's almost the first sign that she's lying. Here are her tears. The new tribe. Let's first get to Rob's reaction before they all merge and everything. When Nico says, let's have a look at the tribe and who was voted out. Rob's reaction, I thought, was really quite measured. And again, it also adds to the point where I think everybody knew that Nathan didn't want to be there. Rob's reaction was a bit muted for me. I thought he was going to flip tables and stuff, but he was quite muted because, again, even he says, I wish I'd got to him sooner because I would have talked him out of that headspace. He needed me, that kind of stuff. So, again, it supports the fact that Nathan, for me, quit the game, but he was voted out instead of having to actually say it out loud. The new tribe is called Manu Malo. The worst part for me about this merge was them having to rebuild the shelter. Oh, let me tell you, at this point in the game, you've just gotten used to sleeping wherever it is that you're sleeping, and now you have to redo stuff. There are 13 people. When you sleep on Survivor, you spoon with strangers. You need to know that going in. It is not a comfortable thing. You have to turn over every 15 minutes, half an hour, because you're lying on bamboo. Anybody who tells you anything different has never played Survivor and they're making stuff up. It is completely real. Uncomfortable. So we don't get bedding. Any bedding you see is something that you've won in a challenge. It is cold, it is wet, and you are sleeping with strangers. And some of you are like, yes, and some of you are like, nah. It is very uncomfortable. Now there are 13 people. Now you have to find somebody who you're going to sleep with. It doesn't often change unless they get voted out, let me tell you that. But it's interesting to see once they first come back to the beach, the scrambling, who's with who. Dante and Meryl, I think, know that they are in trouble. And so they scrambled quite a bit. But for me, the great thing was to see how everybody was working together. There wasn't a lot of people looking for idols. I thought that might happen, but didn't seem that way. And everybody seemed to be doing something around camp when they were rebuilding that shelter. So we'll see what happens there. It's interesting for me to see that Mike and Rob have this bond, and quite a few people want to work with Rob. I'm quite fascinated by that because the man is clearly going to be a huge threat at some point, and people are just wanting to work with him. Oh gosh, I've missed some of these. Let me go. Right. Love Mike. Michaela's asking me some interesting questions. Yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah, there's lots of people wanting to work with Rob, which I find interesting. And I don't know whether it's because of Rob or Rob's connections to Sipe and Nicole and to Steffi and that former alliance. But it's interesting to see because Rob has played a pretty decent social game. And so I would think that because of his physicality and his social game, that it would be a huge threat. Mike mentions at some point that he wants to keep him as a meat shield. Now, meat shield is somebody that you take with you. Same thing I did with Vanna. Somebody who stands up and is seen as the person who is the target and you stand behind them. They act as a shield over your game. So Mike is taking Rob for that reason, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens because Rob wants everybody who voted Nathan out gone. Him and Sipe have said that they want everybody who was involved in that vote gone. Now, Mike's close allies is Jeff and Maba, and it'll be interesting to see what the fallout of that vote will be. Anyway, Durao has an inactive idol. We've spoken about that. Meryl and Dante playing hard. One of the highlights for me, there's two that stand out for me, but like random little highlights. One of them is when they're building the shelter and Sipe says, why is this not measuring up? And Quibber's saying, because not everything in life is straight, Sipe. Dead. Great line. That man's line, one-liners, rival another survivor's one-liners. And the other highlight for me was Steffi and Nicole catching up and chatting about the vote in front of Tani Letitia and her face during that. All I want to put on that face is like thug life. She just had that face going on. So that was pretty much a highlight for me. And then Jacques and Rob. Again, Rob is involved in big strategy talk with Jacques. And Jacques seems to want to work with Rob. And they sit down on the beach to chow another one of their king steer burgers. And it's nice to see Jacques. He's been out of it for a while, I think, which is really good for his game. Not great for TV watching because I find him very entertaining. But he is back, it seems, and hopefully we'll see a little bit more of him. He's good for my Survivor Fantasy League as well because we get points every time somebody has a confessional, and I've been lacking, that's for sure. Everybody wants to work with Rob, and then Nicole comes and sits down on that beach and says, can I chat? And they both welcome her into the fold to have a conversation, and she sits down and Nathan wants to know what happened at the vote, and it's sort of the first time that they are now talking about the Nathan vote. And again, he's very measured and very calm, and he wants to know what happened. And Nicole comes up with the line and says that Nathan wanted to leave the game. He wanted to go home. I had to vote him out or he would have quit a day later. Now, everybody thinks that Nicole is lying because that's what Nicole has done so far in the game. And I think it's one of the times that she's actually telling the truth. I have said from the first couple of episodes that I thought Nathan wanted to quit this game. And so I actually think that she's telling the truth. Whether anybody's believing her is another story. And I think Rob has seen Nicole's lies in 3D, and it will be interesting to see if he believes her. So Nicole defending her decision. I think it saved her for a little bit. But again, I go back to that point that Rob and Sipe said about anybody who was involved in Nathan being voted out has got to go. And I think that that's going to be interesting to see what happens, because some of those people are in their alliance. So we move on to the immunity challenge, which is a classic Survivor challenge. And through the throw forward to next week's episode, it's going to be another classic Survivor challenge. Arms up. Your arms are on a bar attached to a huge bucket of colored water, and the bar is adjusted to your height. So obviously I would be about this far away from the bar because I'm super short. But the game is about mental stability. It's about being able to hold your arms up. I actually practiced this before I left for Survivor. I would hold 5-kilo weights up above my head for, I think I went for about half an hour before things started getting drastic. Just do it at home. Get a milk carton or something and hold it up and see how quickly you last. It is not an easy challenge at all. What I found interesting was Nicole's strategy, right? To be the most annoying human being on the face of the earth. Yes. I thought it was really interesting because that's all fine and well if you win the challenge. If you don't win the challenge, you look like a complete tool bag. So Jeanne de Toy points out that the challenge's name was When It Rains. One of my favorite parts as well, this episode was full of favorites actually, was Dural's color is blue, and then they called him Grumpy Smurf after that, which is pretty classic. So yeah, another classic challenge, very, very difficult. First one up, but like 5 minutes into the game, Letitia, bye Tani. Dante was short to follow. Mike, Sipe, Maba, Dural, this is the order in which they went out. Meryl lasted quite long. Then it came down to the people who were holding on for a while. Corbus, Jacques, Nicole, Rob, and Jeff. And last but not least, Steffi. I might have got that order wrong, but I was doing it as they went out. And Steffi's win, firstly, let's talk about that immunity necklace. I have mine. If production didn't know that, I do have it. I took it. Nobody ever asked for it back, so I still have it. The individual immunity necklace, I think theirs is the best one I've seen probably ever. At first when I saw it, I was like, oh, mine's better. And then I was like, no, actually theirs is really cool, that design with the octopus on. Again, the art department smashing the lights out with the things that they contribute to this challenge. People pointing out Nicole's foodie rants when she was going. It's a cool strategy, but man, you look like a tool if you don't win. Somebody's saying I almost voted out Nicole after she recited a restaurant menu. Somebody says I don't like Steffi. Interesting. Dante called out Maba and Jeff for being weak last week, and both of them outlasted him this week. Very interesting. Again, this is the part of the game, and you don't know this when you're sitting at home and when you're judging other people for playing the game. You look at physical strength. I say it time and time again. It's the reason why I back the people that I back on Survivors, because I know that physical strength has very little to do with how you play this game. Look at big muscle oaks like Rocco. Also, I've heard that Rocco also wanted to leave this game as well, because this is how tough it is. You got Superman wanting to walk out of a game. So this game tests everybody, and it doesn't matter about your strength. It matters about one thing, and that is your mental stability. If you can stay in this game, you can win it. It doesn't matter how you built. I'm one of the shortest people from Middle Earth, and I was able to outlast people, and purely because of my resolve and my mental strength. It wasn't about how strong I was, because also weak. And it's interesting. Now this part of the game changes. your muscles don't count for anything. You have to be able to put everything together, and these challenges are about outlasting people. The next one is one where you have to hold your breath. And as the tide rises, you are in a cage basically. And if you pop out, you're done. And it's about how you manage your panic. Because when you have that moment in water where the water rises up and you can no longer breathe, your body fits in and it's panic. So it's going to be about who can not panic the quickest in that challenge. So we'll see what happens next week. Bianca's saying the octopus is sick. I want to address, this is one of the worst decisions I've seen on Survivor so far. It didn't come back to bite her in the ass, but Steffi deciding, right, so when you win individual immunity, not only do you get a necklace, but you also get the opportunity to send somebody to the Islands of Secrets. And as Nico has said, that the Islands of Secrets the person who goes there doesn't go to tribal council. In other words, they're safe from the vote. But if you don't go to tribal council, you are at a disadvantage. So much gets shared at tribal council, and you've seen it at a lot of our tribals, people whispering here and there, and there's so much that you pick up at tribal council. So much truth comes out. People are spilling the tea left, right, and center, and to miss out on tribal council is huge. So Steffi wins individual immunity, so now she's safe at the vote. She gets the necklace. She can't be voted for. And then Nico says to her, who do you want to send to tribal council? You can send anybody, including yourself. She says, I'm going to send myself. Can somebody explain that to me? You're already safe. Now you're going to put yourself at a disadvantage for a good night's sleep? Nah, honey. Also, you're not going to sleep that well. You're also sleeping on bamboo. It's just a terrible, weird decision that I really do not understand. If somebody has better thoughts on that, please let me know. I thought it was an absolutely terrible decision on Steffi's part. Because also it's a power play, right? If you have a close alliance, you can save somebody who has their name on the chopping block. So, for example, she could have sent Rob, her closest ally, or Nicole, or Sipe, somebody in her original alliance, and be like, I got your back. But she decided to save herself. It is an individual game, but it was a terrible, terrible move. You were already safe. I do not understand the play there. Just take yourself to Islands of Secrets. Bizarre. Or she could have thrown a spanner in the works and sent out Jeffrey to the Islands of Secrets, or Meryl, somebody that she knew that was in trouble, and they could have put a whole spanner in the works. She could have nailed her colors to the mast, but none of that happened. She sent herself to. I just thought it was an interesting decision. And also the big thing about Steffi winning is she's put a huge target on her back. I would not be surprised if she is one of the people whose name is on the chopping block next week. Okay, people saying they agree, terrible decision. Yeah, she had an opportunity, this is from Melissa, she had an opportunity to shake things up, but she played it so safe. I agree. Somebody asking me, love Mike, Michaela, I'm going to talk about your questions. You've asked me a couple of questions which don't relate to the episode, but I will get to them before the end of this episode. I want to kind of try and wrap it up in the next 10 minutes. I've been going for 30 minutes already. So back at the beach, to be honest with you, I actually still don't know. Is it me, or do you know who's with who? I actually have no idea. There are a lot of people, there are a lot of alliances, there are a lot of people who are in multiple alliances, and I actually don't know who is currently like solid with who. Like, for example, who is Jacques solid with? Who's Rob solid with? I think Rob is solid with Sipe. Who is Sipe solid with? Like 100% I got your back to the end. Who is Mike solid with? Somebody was pointing out that Mike seemed a bit slow at the beginning, but is a solid player. I am told that Mike is a super, super fan. Him and Jeff, I think, at this point, as far as I've heard, are some of the biggest fans, and they call them students of the game. So I'm a fan. I've watched a lot of Survivor, but I don't study it. I can't tell you who did what on what episode, and quote lines and quote moves and the 4-2-1s. I can't do that. Apparently, Jeff and Mike are two people on this season who are super, super into the game and know the game inside out. So Mike is slow playing, and I'm happy to see. more of him come to the fore, because I think he's a very, very strong player. And somebody asked me who I think is going to go to the end. I think Mike has a very, very good chance. He needs to play his alliance properly, and we'll see. Right, let's go. As I say, I'm trying to keep up with who's where, but there was a lot of hard fighting by Dante and Meryl, again, to try and stay in the game. It was one of the first votes for me when they went to Tribal Council where I didn't know the outcome, and it will be interesting to see if that carries on, because there is a big numbers majority right now after the vote we see, and it'll be interesting to see if they stick. There's going to be too many strong players for this to just coast to the end like this, I promise you. That tight 7, there's zero chance of it going to the end. 7 is too big of a number. That means that there's 2 big alliances within 7. There's a 3 and a 4. That's too big. You need to have like a solid 5 to go. Even within a 5, there's 3 and 2. And if you don't know your place in the alliance as well, it's also tricky, because you have a lot of power if you're on the bottom of 7. Right? If you're the bottom 2 on 7, and myself and Rabbit say to each other, hey, listen, we're on the bottom, we can jump ship, and we go to the other 5, all of a sudden the game is switched up. And that's going to happen a lot now with this 13. So we go to Tribal Council, and I think a lot of people are still playing. Everybody gets asked, what are you basing your votes on, blah, 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 strength, and who I think is a challenge beast, or who I think is going to be strategically hard to beat. At the end of the day, there were 2 big alliances, and the votes went like this. The people who voted for Jeff were Letitia, Quibus, Jacques, Meryl, and Dante. There was 5. And Meryl, unfortunately, getting the most votes from Sipe, Durao, Nicole, Maba, Rob, Mike, and Jeff. So it was a 7 versus 5. Unfortunately, Meryl went home. Also, somebody who I thought had the social capability of going very deep into the game. Missy KC101 says, firstly, she said some really nice things about the recap, so thank you for that. But asking, do you think the castaways are going to play numbers or alliances going forward? And I actually think that they're both the same. Your alliance is a numbers game, and you hope that you have the numbers majority, and at some point you have to turn on your alliance to keep the numbers and to keep yourself within the chopping block of that alliance. But I actually think you play your game, and it all depends on how solid and safe they feel within their alliances. But as I say, it's hard for me to say who. So say, for instance, in my season, myself and Vanner had a tight alliance, but we had, we had a tight 3, but it changed to whoever you were talking to. But we actually had a solid 5, according to me. But then when I watched the episode, it wasn't that solid. There was somebody talking about voting out one of the 5 almost every episode. It's hard to say, it's hard to read at this point what they're going to go with, but ultimately this is a numbers game, and if you have a strong alliance of people more than the other alliance, you can go far. It all depends on where you sit in that alliance. So let's try and see if I can get to some questions. Melissa, you've got a few. Did you enjoy Tribal Council? Ducky's asking me. Are you asking me whether I enjoyed this Tribal Council or my Tribal Council? I thought Tribal Council was great. It's one of my strengths is speaking, but it also put a bit of a target on my back because people could see that I was quite good at speaking. So I enjoy Tribal Council. I enjoy watching Tribal Council, and as I mentioned before, Tribal Council is very important because you get to see what's what and who's where and whose alliances is playing. Ducky, I did respond to that question a bit earlier. Right, Melissa, I think this is the first question. I already addressed this. Steffi sending herself to Islands of Secrets is a terrible decision. She should have shook things up, or just solidified something. But with all that power, you waste it. For me, it was a terrible decision. One of the worst decisions of the episode. Nicole and Sipe are two standout players for me. Bold moves, putting plans in motion. They are. Nicole, I think, is less of a social player for me. I think she landed herself in a good alliance, but she tends to put people... I don't know, she's made some interesting decisions. I'm not sure she's well aware of what is happening strategically in the game. But that, for me, is something that we're going to have to watch. Just as I turn the camera for Rabbit to be on camera. This bitch. You've got more questions. Part 2. Building widespread relationships and enemies. I think that's also in relation to Nicole and Sipe. Yeah, but Sipe as well also has that tendency to talk down to people, to be a bit condescending. So it will be interesting to see where the two of them go. For me, I would prefer to see somebody like Sipe go further in the game. People like Nicole, I hate saying it because I don't know her, but what I've seen from the episode, she's a bit of an ice queen. She is used to people speaking to her a certain way, and as we saw at the start of the episode, when Dante threatened that, she was like, how dare you speak to me? Well, you're kind of speaking to him, not shouting, but also being a bit demeaning and speaking to him in a certain way, so it's kind of a two-way street. I think they both were wrong, but for me, Sipe for me seems like a stronger player and has better relationships with a bunch of different alliances. Nicole doesn't have anything with... I think Nicole has got relationships with Jeff and Maba after the Nathan vote, maybe. And she's got the old Amigos alliances, but Sipe has got like 3 alliances. She's just killing things at the moment. You've got one more part to the question. At this stage, who stands out for you and why? It's hard. There's so many big characters. There's so many strong players. For me, somebody to keep an eye on is Mike, just because of how thoughtful he is within the game, his relationships that he has. I think that he is going to go deep into the game. He's got solid support with Maba and Jeff. The question is, does Jeff make it far enough into the game for him to be a number for Mike? But at the moment, he's on the right side of the numbers alliance. So if they do take him far... it will be, I think Mike is going to benefit a lot from that relationship. And it'll be interesting if they are two big Survivor fans, who cuts who first. Somebody has to go. And that'll be interesting to see. I think Steffi's got a huge target on her back. I think Tani Letitia is going to go into this game, guys. Nobody is paying attention to her. She seems to be going with the flow, which is great merge strategy. The problem is at some point she has to build a Survivor resume because that will come back to bite her in the ass if she doesn't. I love her. I think she's great value. And she's injured and we haven't heard anything about it. Is that even possible? To not tell everybody about your anus? Shame. But yeah, there are a bunch of people who I've got my eye on. Jacques as well is a strong player, so we'll see what happens with him. Any more questions that anybody wants to ask? I'm going to go back quickly to Michaela's questions, if I can find them quickly. Michaela firstly wanted to know if I'm friends with Tom. Tom and I speak often. Tom is a very different guy to me. We live very different lives. He has R1 million and I don't. No, just kidding. No, but he's just got a different view on the world that I do. I don't think we'll ever be best friends. But I have a lot of respect and I have a lot of time for him. He's one of those guys that if you were in trouble on the side of the road, you would want to call Tom because he would help you sort it out. He's got a sense of humor which rubs me up the wrong way sometimes, but I wish nothing but the best to him and his family. He's got a great support structure, him and his wife, and their kids. They are great people, but there are some things that Tom does that drives me insane. But yeah, I still have a relationship with him, and he phones me every now and again when he sees. Sometimes he just sees a great picture on Instagram and he phones me to tell me. That's the kind of guy he is. Michaela asked, who do you think is the strongest player at the moment? It's hard to tell, Michaela, honestly. I think Mike is very strong. And again, we talk about strength. You might have a different interpretation of what strength is. For me, strength means how well they can play this game, not about challenges. Challenges are secondary at this point. You had another question that came up. I think that's it. Loudmouth, I'm just reading over yours that I missed. Everyone's still vying for an Amigo, Meryl for Steffi, Jeff and Marba for Nicole, and Quibus, Mike and Jar for Rob. Not sure what that means. Anyway, Missy KC101 says she likes Mike. I agree. He's one of my favorites. Anyway, what else have we got? We're going to be wrapping it up. If anybody else wants to add anything before we go, the look at next week's challenge looks really good. It is a classic. We've never seen it on Survivor South Africa, so we'll see. It's difficult. If you're not comfortable in water, let me tell you, it's probably your worst nightmare. It seems as if it's a grid, so you probably have this much like room between the grid and the water, and what happens is as the tide comes in, you are stuck in the water and you have to breathe, so you have to knock your head back and sort of breathe like this before the water, and then it's going to be a case of who can outlast their stress the longest. If there's nothing else, and remember at the start of the episode I did tell you what is the time. I can tell you it was embargoed until 7 minutes past 10. It is now 10:30, so I can tell you this is big news from Mnet. They have confirmed that there will be a second season of The Bachelor South Africa. The end of the previous season, a lot of people have been saying two things. Goodness, that was painful to watch. And secondly, I wonder if they will make a second one. And I was wondering if Mnet would make a Bachelor or a Bachelorette. And a bunch of people who follow sort of the whole Bachelor franchise all across the world often say that they'll take one of the women from The Bachelor and they will make her a Bachelorette and continue the season. But Mnet have put all of those rumors to bed, and they have said they will continue with a man in the role of The Bachelor. Jason Greer will be joining them as the host, and they will be casting that. In fact, they said they don't have a man in the mind yet. And we will see. The last one was a little questionable. Lots of rumors coming out about Lee and since. So we'll see what happens. Bachelor South Africa. If you want to be, will Rob be back in time? Rob is available, and so is Nathan. I don't think they will choose. I don't know. Let's see. I don't know if Rob is single. I don't know. He's beautiful though. Those eyes. Whoo, there'll be lots of heartbreak if Rob were the Bachelor. There's another question that popped up. Let's just see. What do you think will happen to Dante now that Meryl is gone? Okay, let's quickly get to that. I think Dante is scrambling, but that doesn't always mean that you are so weak. It means that you are in a position to be jumping ship, and you could be used as a vote. Remember, I did tell you about Jacques' advantage. It did say that Jacques' vote was only good for the first episode, or the first vote after merge, but he still has that fake piece of paper, and he could use it and say, I have a vote. So that's also a possibility. So we'll see. Jacques is itching to make a move. Will he be able to use Dante, who's at the bottom of, everything at the moment? But remember that Dante essentially voted with Jacques, Quibus, Letitia, and Jeff. So he's on the bottom of an alliance of 5, and now it's only 4. But there are some floating people on the other one, so we'll see what happens. I actually have no idea. Anyway, let's quickly wrap it up. Anybody interested in entering The Bachelor? Any woman? Check out Mnet's page. You can go and enter now. That's it, guys. Anything else, you can hit me up on Instagram, Jeanne Michel 1983 1983. And otherwise, this will be on YouTube. If you missed the start, I'll post it on YouTube a bit later. But otherwise, not bad. We did it in 49 minutes. Shorter than last week's, but not the shortest one we've ever done. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll chat again next week. Enjoy Survivor Thursday on Mnet 101 from 7. And if you have any questions, drop me an inbox message. As the episode is playing out, we will get to it on Sunday next week. Or if anything changes, I'll keep you up to date on my stories. Otherwise, have a good Sunday. Bye!